You know when you're out with friends and you have to split a bill, or maybe you're trying to follow a recipe, or just figure out a fair way to share something. Well, believe it or not, those are all ratio puzzles, and they're everywhere. Today, we're going to crack the code on how to solve pretty much any of them with one simple, really powerful method.
Okay, let's just dive right into a real-world mystery. This one's got it all. 3 friends, a boat, and a big pile of cash. And the big question is, of course, how do you split it all up fairly?
So here's the central puzzle we need to solve. We've got $3,300 from a boat sale, and it needs to be split between these 3 friends. I mean, how do you do it? Sounds simple enough, right? But there's a catch. And here is that catch. Let me introduce you to our 3 friends, Shu, Zane, and Mike. See, the problem is they didn't all pay the same amount for the boat. Not even close. Shu put in $1,400, Zane put in $1,050, and Mike, he put in a whopping $1,750. So when they sold it for $3,300, you can see how just splitting it 3 ways, well, that wouldn't be fair at all. So, what do?
Well, the secret here isn't some super complex math formula. It's actually a tool you've definitely heard of, but you probably never thought of it as a key to solving puzzles. And that tool is the ratio. This is our secret code. It's what's going to give us a clear, fair, and totally logical answer.
Okay, so let's get to the good part. I'm about to show you a super simple 3-step method that you can use over and over again. And look, this isn't just for solving this one boat problem. This is like a secret code you can use for pretty much any sharing puzzle that comes your way.
So, what even is a ratio, really? Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a recipe. A recipe doesn't tell you the total amount of cake batter you'll end up with, right? It tells you the proportions, like for every 2 cups of flour, you need 1 cup of sugar. It's all about comparing how much of one thing you have to another. In our method, it's seriously just 3 simple steps. First, you're going to add up all the numbers in the ratio to find the total number of parts. Step 2, you take the total amount you're sharing and you divide it by that total number of parts. That'll tell you what one single part is worth. And finally, step 3, you just multiply the value of that one part by each number in the original ratio. That's it. That gives you everyone's share.
And you know, what's so powerful about this is that it just takes all the guesswork out of the equation. It literally gives you a clear path from what seems like a confusing problem to a totally fair answer. And it works every single time.
All right, theory is great and all, but let's actually put this code into practice, shall we? We'll start with a little warm-up puzzle, just to see our 3-step method in action. Let's talk about a running club.
So here's the scenario. We've got this running club, and it has 260 members in total. Now these members are a mix of men, women, and children, and they're in a ratio of 8 to 5 to 7. So the puzzle is, how many men, how many women, and how many children are actually in the club?
Okay, you know the drill. Time for step 1. We need to find the total number of parts in our ratio, which, remember, is 8 to 5 to 7.
Yep, all we do is add them up. So 8 plus 5 plus 7, that gives us a grand total of 20 parts. Easy enough, right? What this means is we're basically thinking of the whole club as being split into 20 equal-sized groups.
All right, now for step 2. We know the whole club has 260 members, and we just figured out that it's made up of 20 of these equal parts. So, the next logical question is, how many members are in just one of those parts?
Well, we just divide. We take our 260 total members, divide by those 20 parts, and boom, we get 13. So the value of one single part in our ratio is 13 people. That's our magic number.
And just like that, we are at the final step. This is where it all comes together. Now that we know one part equals 13 people, we can figure out the exact number of men, women, and children. All we have to do is multiply 13 by each of the numbers in our original ratio.
And here it is, the final solution. For the men, that's 8 parts times 13, which is 104 men. For the women, it's 5 parts times 13, so that's 65 women. And for the children, 7 parts times 13 gives us 91. And you know what the best part is? If you add 104, 65, and 91 all together, you get exactly 260. The math works out perfectly. Love it when that happens.
Fantastic. So, now that we've seen the method work beautifully, I think we're ready for the main event. Let's circle back to our friends, Shu, Zane, and Mike, and finally figure out once and for all how to split that boat money fairly.
Now, the key here is that the problem says they share the money in the same ratio as what they originally paid.
So the very first thing we have to do is turn those payments into a ratio. That's $1,400 for Shu, $1,050 for Zane, and $1,750 for Mike.
Now, we could try to work with those big, clunky numbers, but why make life harder for ourselves? Here's a great pro tip. Always simplify the ratio if you can. It turns out if you divide all three of those numbers by 350, you get a much, much friendlier ratio. 4 to 3 to 5. It means the exact same thing, it's just way easier to work with.
Okay, now we're in business. We can just apply our three-step method. Step 1, find the total parts. We just add up our nice simple ratio. 4 plus 3 plus 5 equals 12 total parts.
Moving right along to step 2, find the value of one part. The boat sold for $3,300, right? So we divide that by our 12 total parts, and we find out that each single part is worth $275.
And here is the final breakdown. Time for step 3. Zhu gets 4 parts, so we multiply that by 275, he gets $1,100. Zane gets 3 parts, so that's $825 for him, and Mike, with his 5 parts, gets $1,375. But here's where it gets really interesting. If you compare this to what they originally paid, you realize they all lost money on this deal. But the answer to our original puzzle, who came out best, or in this case, lost the least, is Zane. He had the smallest loss, just $225. Puzzle solved.
So let's zoom out a little for our final section and see how this is way more than just a math trick. This is a skill, a superpower that you can use almost anywhere. Seriously, this isn't just for a math class. It's a real-world tool for making sure things are fair.
So what are the big takeaways today? First, and most importantly, ratios are your absolute best friend when it comes to fair sharing. Second, that three-step method we learned. That's the key that cracks the code for pretty much any sharing puzzle. Third, a little pro tip. Always simplify big ratios to make your life easier. And finally, just remember that you can use this for anything. Splitting profits, mixing paint colors, even breaking down sports stats.
So now that you have this secret code, I'm going to leave you with one final question to chew on. Just look around you, at your work, in your hobbies, even just around your home. What ratios are hiding there in plain sight, just waiting for you to solve them?